Welcome to Cardinals Cover 2 with Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki. Cardinals Cover 2 is brought to you by Arizona Cardinals Podcasts. Visit azcardinals.com/podcasts. From the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center, here's Craig Grialou and Mike Jurecki.
Quick turnaround as we get you set for day 3 of the 2019 NFL Draft. And yes, it does feel like we were just here at the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center because, well, we were. Day 2, a long Friday and a Friday nights, and now bright and early on a Saturday morning. Don't usually get to see you on the weekend, MJ, so how are you?
I'm wonderful. Slept fast, as you said last night. And the Cardinals actually have 7 picks today. Now, I know the excitement obviously was the first overall pick. And then when you listen to Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury last night, they had a lot of first-round grades on guys they drafted. And also Pro Football Focus, not that it's not the Bible, but it's also a tool. But I want to say this first. You know, we're on camera. We get the opportunity to talk to the fan base and the listeners out there. But the content that's coming out of this building has been unbelievable over the last couple of days. And we'll mention the names a little bit later, if not when we get back on the show on Monday. But that Cliff Kingsbury, when they made the Andy Isabella pick, that was the swag that we saw on the sidelines at Texas Tech. I mean, I think maybe just the whole Kyler Murray, talk, he was probably just relieved when they made the pick, as I was talking to our producer, Jimmy Hunter, this morning. But the Isabella, I mean, the fact that you can get a slot guy in this offense, and you got Christian Kirk, you can never have too many. And Jimmy mentioned yesterday maybe he's our Cooper Kupp, and we would sign up for that right now. But Kingsbury was so excited and fist bump, and then when he's walking back around the table, you see the swag.
Yeah, the
cool cat.
Emmy Award-winning Cardinals broadcasting department taking you behind the scenes. If you miss any of it, go to azcardinals.com for, of course, the draft call, Byron Murphy, the draft call that you're talking about, MJ, to Andy Isabella. The emotion on both sides of that communication, the player and, of course, in the draft room as well.
And listen, it started a few years ago, obviously an all or nothing, but prior to that, teams don't have to do this. And the fact that the Cardinals really put that out there, that Amir Abdullah was going to be the pick, and then they get Golden and David Johnson, I just really appreciate it. And covering the team as long as I did, I didn't know half of that stuff until you work here and you see what's going on. So I'm just thoroughly impressed, and I'm glad I'm part of the team.
Absolutely. And, of course, now you're seeing it from other teams as well, giving their fan bases the behind-the-scenes access. So we've got rounds 4 through 7. We'll set the stage here on this special edition of Cards Cover 2. And, of course, you want to be a part of it, follow along. There are 3 different avenues in which to watch: ABC, ESPN, NFL Network. So far, the ratings have been great. The turnout in Nashville has been phenomenal. It's blown away all expectations, upwards of 200,000 people Thursday, Friday. There is a large turnout expected here on Saturday, but anytime you have 3 different networks carrying the NFL draft, and I understand ESPN and ABC under the Disney umbrella, but 3 different broadcasting crews to cover this 2019 NFL draft. Yes, football is here, and it's here to stay. But as you talked about it, there are 7 picks for the Cardinals here. The first pick in each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, a second pick in the 6th round, and then 3 selections in round 7, including the final pick, number 254, which is Mr. Irrelevant. We'll see what the Cardinals decide to do. Do they trade down, move up, add picks, subtract picks? A lot of different directions this team can go. And before we kind of figure out what that direction is, let's go back to last night. Steve Keim talking about their preparation and anticipation for day 3.
The one thing about this draft again that I'm excited about is we can sit and somebody, if you're a fan or you're the casual observer, at 33, you should have took a receiver, you should have took, the bottom line is we're trusting our board. It's always good to take an offensive tackle or an offensive guard, whatever it may be. But if the value's not there, we're not going to just make knee-jerk reactions based on need. So would we love to add some more additional offensive linemen? Absolutely, if the value says it should be there. But again, at 33, Byron Murphy to me was a no-brainer. The guy's a fantastic player, and I think he'll be able to contribute this year. His ability to play inside and outside in particular. And then just again, Isabella has been a lot of fun to watch, somebody we were really excited about. And then again, Zach Allen, somebody we think can contribute right away.
Those three players that Keim mentioned, plus Kyler Murray, those four total, according to Keim in that press conference last night, 4 picks in their top 35, which in his words is unheard of since he's been the general manager. So right now, you got to think that they really like where this draft is headed, and we can talk a little bit later on as far as now what the direction is here in day 3. But let's go back and kind of revisit. Everyone knows about Kyler Murray, but Byron Murphy, his story, and we'll hear from him more in depth. He's expected to come here to the Dignity Health Arizona Cardinals Training Center for a press conference to be introduced to the local media because he is a local kid, and that's the story here. Someone who went to Saguaro High School and then played at Washington and now coming back home. The last 24 hours for him, he talked about that on a conference call yesterday.
The first day was kind of emotional for me, just thinking I was going to go first round, but I knew I had to keep faith. I knew God had a route for me to take, and now today, waking up when I got that call kind of surprised me, but at the same time I was excited just because, like I said, I could stay home in my hometown and obviously, get drafted. That was the biggest thing for me, just get drafted and get the opportunity. But it was very emotional for me. I just knew how to keep my head straight, stay confident, and my time was going to be here.
Somewhat similar to what Christian Kirk said a year ago. Himself, a second-round pick, local kid, thought maybe perhaps a day 1 selection. He was not, but he falls to the Cardinals and stays home. And here's Byron Murphy, potentially a day 1 pick, but falls to the Cardinals. And sometimes it's more important to what team you get selected to as opposed to, hey, I really want to be a day 1 guy. Well, sometimes team
There's only 32 of those.
Yes, and for Murphy, for him and personally and his family and friends couldn't have worked out any better.
Well, let's be honest, though. I mean, having the first pick in these, rounds 1 through 4, that's the difference of, finish. I mean, that's the, I guess, the end result of finishing 3 and 13. You're not picking 15th and 18th in each round. You're not going to have first-round grades and guy if you're – now, hopefully that's the case next year because that means you had a good draft and you're winning football games. To me, I can tell you this, and no surprise, he was the number 1 cornerback on the Cardinals board. They had a high first-round grade on him. To see him at 33, they were thrilled. Now, he could play inside and outside, and the Cardinals did sign Tramaine Brock. He's a little bit older, but he does have experience. But I think this guy he's a plug-and-play guy. He's going to play on teams. He's going to be the future. Patrick's under contract 2 more years, Robert Alford the next 3. So finally, they've built some depth there, and I can make the case that all 3 of those guys should be on the field this year or will be on the field because the Cardinals are going to play a lot of 3 corners. They're not going to play 3 safeties like it did a year ago. So Brock is great depth. You got some other guys like Dietrich Nichols, Dave Emerson, Josh Shaw, excuse me. So you got some guys on the roster. Now, they're going to have to make the roster, but to me, value-wise, and you can talk about Deandre Baker. He was the only corner drafted in the first round, and then Greedy Williams, he went to Cleveland a little bit later in the draft yesterday. Different players. Greedy's got great length and size and speed, but he's not physical. He doesn't like to tackle. So the Cardinals are thrilled with this pick. And, again, another local guy will obviously have a fan base, and he's going to come in here, and I think he's got a bright future.
I can see a lot of Byron Murphy, the path to the Cardinals, much like Budda Baker. And yes, they went to the same college, but someone who can come in and maybe make his initial impact on special teams, learn what is being asked of him in that secondary, and then grow into a much larger role. There's not as much pressure on him to come right away and be that key guy in the second. Now, if it works and he learned it and he's, playing well in training camp, then yeah, you give him more. But because of the Alford signing and Patrick Peterson and Tramaine Brock, that they've got what they think is their secondary in place, and now you've just added depth.
Nothing against Brock. I mean, I think it was an important signing. You can't have enough depth based on what happened last year, but I just think Murphy's got the athleticism, and, he's a little bit of thin. He'll gain some weight, and he'll get a little stronger in the weight room, but when you pop in the tape, this guy's a ball hawk. And again, you look at the secondary coach at Washington, Jimmy Lake, and even Steve mentioned him last night. He's a good friend of them. Again, when he doesn't recruit players he doesn't think is going to play at the next level. And I think we're seeing some of the fruits of the labor when you look at Buda Baker and now Byron Murphy.
You mentioned always like to compare guys and come up with comps. Well, one of the comparisons that have been floated out with Byron Murphy is Tyrann Mathieu.
I like that comparison because I actually met Tyrann Mathieu. I met him when he was here, and I just met him on my team visit to Kansas City. The comparisons, I like that comparison because I know how hard he works. I know he's a great player. He has a dog in him, the same just like me. So that comparison I could take all day. He's a great player.
Well, that's an interesting comp because Tyrann Mathieu was a slot corner. Now he's playing a little bit more safety. Buda Baker played slot corner last year. So, again, position flexibility and the fact that he can play inside or outside, to me, is where he's going to cut his teeth and get some playing time.
And always around the ball. That was the one thing we said about Mathieu. Whenever there was a play, he was always there, whether it was pass or run. Tyrann Mathieu, number 32, always seemed to be there.
Yeah, when he was healthy, that he was up for the Defensive Player of the Year until he got the injury. And I'm glad that Tyrann's still in the NFL and he's got an opportunity to go out there and make some money. But that is interesting because I could see the similar traits. I don't like comparing the player. I like traits of certain players. But to me, that's encouraging because Tyrann and Buda Baker in the last 2 years have played in the slot. And I think he's going to be a viable option in that spot regardless of Tramaine Brock. But, again, we need to let it play out. The team loves competition.
Absolutely. So, Murphy, the first pick of the second round, number 33 overall. The Cardinals had a second round pick, and that was Andy Isabella, the wide receiver out of UMass, number 62 overall, and that was as a result of the trade of Josh Rosen to the Miami Dolphins. And speaking of comparisons, one of the comps with Isabella, he was asked on his conference call about comparisons to Julian Edelman, and Isabella's comment was, quote, "That is a cool comparison. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. That's something that I would definitely love to be." Now, it's high expectations, a high ceiling for Isabella to meet, but if you're not familiar with Isabella, and I'll be honest with you, it didn't hit me, that name, until Senior Bowl week because he was a standout all week long. But if you want to figure out what he can do, look at what Julian Edelman did with the New England Patriots, and then you can kind of see the traits that you like to say. It's not, oh, well, he's not going to catch 100 balls and be a help. No. I'm not talking about stats, but what can they do on the football field? What does Isabella remind you of? And many people believe it's Edelman.
Yeah, just body size. I mean, Edelman obviously has gotten a little bit thicker over the years, but Edelman was a 7th-round pick. He was actually a college quarterback. You're talking about a young man, according to the Cardinals' notes, Isabella received only 2 Division I scholarships, Air Force Academy and the University of Massachusetts. So, he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's out to prove people wrong, and I love the attitude coming in. Jimmy mentioned to us yesterday, maybe he's our Cooper Kupp, and we would sign up for that now. So you got a couple slot receivers, Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald plays into the slot, and then you throw in Isabella. And to me, in Cliff Kingsbury's offense, you can never have enough slot guys. I still maintain the Cardinals may keep up to 7 wide receivers and may only have 5 on game day. And I asked Cliff last night, is this the ideal slot receiver? And he said, listen, we're going to move him around. We're not going to, pigeon. I'm paraphrasing here and putting my words in. The point was I'm not going to pigeonhole him just as a slot guy. And then you were able to watch some of the highlights and video there. They were able to throw the ball down the field, too. I was talking to Jimmy earlier. Why wouldn't you take a shot down the field for a guy that ran a 4.35 40?
Absolutely. Just say, beat your man, and we'll get you the
ball.
ball.
And a lot of times a slot receiver is going against the third corner. So if you got another guy that can run the intermediate routes, like Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk, that may open things up for him. You're not going to do it every down because he's really good yards after catch. He gets open on those crossing routes. We're going to see some bubble screens this year. So him and Christian Kirk, I like it now. They still need an X wide receiver. When I say X wide receiver, we're talking a big physical receiver, kind of like Michael Floyd, kind of like Larry Fitzgerald. And the Cardinals did sign Kevin White. But he hasn't been productive. Obviously, he's got a great opportunity here, and he's going to have to make the roster. So they need an X receiver, and I think we'll see that at some point today.
Isabella, the first UMass player ever selected by the Arizona Cardinals, and he did meet with the Cardinals at the Combine. They were at his pro day, and he had an immediate connection with wide receivers coach David Rye as they were able to spend some quality time together. And that's the part of all of this that kind of gets lost is we know about the scouting, and, yeah, we know about Steve Keim and Terry McDonough, but the position coaches play a large part in this as well. David Rye gets mentioned by Andy Isabella. We heard from Zach Allen, the Cardinals' third-round draft pick, defensive lineman out of Boston College, the first pick, number 65 overall, and he talked about his relationship with defensive line coach Chris Akoff on how much they spent together during this entire draft process because, let's face it, the scouts kind of identify the players, but it's the position coaches, for the most part, that are going to have to deal with these players on an everyday basis. And now, according to Allen, he's already got that connection, might not know too much about the Cardinals, but he did train in Arizona, so he is somewhat familiar with this area. But someone coming from the East Coast now to the West Coast, he's got someone that he can reach out to, if you will, as far as to kind of help that transition.
Yeah, and Spencer Whipple, he's on the staff as a quality control coach. So from a standpoint of, and his brother was Mark Whipple, they're well known in the East Coast when it comes to coaching and offense. So the fact that you had a guy that probably stood on the table for him, even though he's the quality control coach, he's been with them for the last 4 years. I think that goes a long way.
Absolutely. And for Allen, exactly what are the Cardinals getting with him when they put on that tape and when he goes on the field? He talked about that on a conference call yesterday.
They're just going to get, very versatile, very strong, and athletic player. Playing on the inside, I can, beat guards with speed and power, and play on the outside. Kind of do the same thing and just play across that line. And I feel like I have some pretty good technique right now. Obviously, stuff has to improve, but just really excited to continue to learn and improve. 100%. Yeah, I mean, without effort, you're loafing, and a loaf means you're a traitor to your team. And, you can really, at the end of the day, the only thing that you can control is your effort and your mindset. So I really just try to control what I can control, and effort's definitely one of those things.
A high motor guy who has a passion for the game, and that is something that is certainly hard to kind of evaluate and measure. But the Cardinals believe they received and acquired someone that might not be able, at least initially, as far as great against the quarterback, but someone who is great against the run.
Well, it kind of reminds me of Brooks Reed. I mean, again, I got to assume that if you don't get a chance to start, play on teams, but maybe he's a rotation guy. Maybe it doesn't happen right away. But I think Brooks Reed's another guy. He plays with his hair on fire. They don't take a play off in practice. So, and the fact is that the Cardinals felt worthy that he was in their top 35 when it came to their overall grades, Pro Football Focus, based on the Cardinals' 4 draft picks. They had those guys in the top 40. Now, again, it's not the Bible, but it's a tool you can use when it comes to, obviously, other people's opinions. I'm not big on grades. We got to let this thing play out. But going into the draft, we talked about some of the needs and some of the options they have, and it looks like they're going best available player, and we'll see what transpires this morning.
Again, we are moments away from the start of Day 3 of the 2019 NFL Draft, rounds 4 through 7 here on this Saturday. You can catch it on ABC, ESPN, and the NFL Network. The Cardinals with a total of 7 draft picks, one in each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds. The first picks in those rounds, a second 6th round selection, and 3 picks in the 7th round, including number 254, which is Mr. Irrelevant. So the Cardinals will begin the 2019 NFL Draft, and they will close the 2019 NFL Draft. And speaking of how they opened the 2019 NFL Draft, the first overall pick, Kyler Murray, introduced to the local media on Friday. It's been a whirlwind for him. azcardinals.com, behind-the-scenes footage that MJ likes so much. The last 24 hours for Kyler Murray, it's certainly been a lot of fun for him because he's been the focus of this entire draft, if you will, and now it is all over for him. Going from Nashville all the way to the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray the last 24 hours.
Best plane I've ever been on. got to sleep a little bit, so it was nice. Just glad we're here now. Can't wait to go. Can't wait to put that red on and get active. You know what I'm saying? So it's a blessing to be here.
Bird on. Congrats.
3, 2, 1.
All right, well, first of all, Kyler, welcome to Arizona.
Well, I'm excited. You know, I hope the fans are excited because, you know, I can't wait to step on the field and get it done. Or, you know, once they said, you know, Cardinals on the clock, heart started racing.
From the training center, Kyler Murray, the #1 pick of the 2019 NFL Draft, and he joins us right now.
Hey, I've met you.
Carter.
Yeah.
First and foremost, let's start with the number. What do you want?
Uno.
You gonna go with number 1?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put you in number 1.
Gotcha.
So without further ado, our first round pick, Kyler Murray.
As a kid, that's what you dream of, you know, going to an organization and being that guy, you know, winning Super Bowls. And, you know, like I said, I don't shy away from hard work. I feel like I'm ready to go, and I can't wait.
Not a bad day one for Kyler Murray, and of course, it's official. He will wear #1 as he did at Oklahoma and as he did at Allen High School in Texas. But let's hope that here on day 2 with the Arizona Cardinals, he can actually sleep a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sure he's got to wrap up a lot of little things over the next couple of days, but he's going to be out here next week, rookie minicamp.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. So you got a little time. And these guys, they've been patted on the back. They've been on the banquet circuit. At some point, you're going to have to get to work.
Yeah, all the praise that you've received, and as you said, the pats on the back,
all the
of a
free
sudden
steaks.
it's like, you know what, at ends. You know what, once you walk in this building, all right, let's see what you can do on the field.
And I know he's the first-round pick, but at the end of the day, you're one of 90, even though we know he's the part of the future, and hopefully good things are coming. But we got Murray.
Okay, I like it. Did you just come up that by yourself?
Yeah, I just thought about it.
Oh, okay. You better trademark that fast. So we'll figure out what teammates Kyler Murray now will have as the 2019 NFL Draft Day 3 gets underway here. And again, you can follow along on ABC, ESPN, and the NFL Network. The Cardinals have a total of 7 draft picks as we speak. That can always change. The first pick in each of the 4th, 5th, and 6th rounds, a second 6th round selection, and then 3 picks in round 7. Here are the numbers for those if you want to keep track. 103, 139, 174, 179, 248, 249, and 254, which is Mr. Irrelevant.
Just follow us on Twitter.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's easy to do, yeah.
Craig Grulu, Mike Jurecki.
Yeah, and of course the hashtag on social media,
yes.
Cards Drafts, and follow along on social media and then watch as well on ABC, ESPN, and the NFL Network here. And we are just moments away from the start of day 3. Again, it's been a busy first 2 days, and I wouldn't expect anything less here on day 3. And that's going to wrap up this special edition of Cards Cover 2 here on this Saturday behind the scenes. Appreciate everyone's involvement. Tim Delaney, Jim Alejandro, Jeremy Schnell, Jackson Sipes. That's Mike Jurecki. I'm Craig Riolu. We'll come back a little bit later on in the day for Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury's post-draft press conference. Until then, enjoy day 3 of the 2019 NFL Draft.